In the late 1990s, I had shown that measures of interpersonal trust were among the strongest predictors economists had ever found to understand why countries are rich or poor. So poor countries are by and large low trust countries. That means that few transactions that create wealth occur. So we built some mathematical models to understand what kind of environments create high trust. And this work was actually very influential. The World Bank flew me out, how do we raise trust in these developing countries to help alleviate poverty? But I would always get this question, which is, gee, for a given environment, why would you ever trust a stranger with your money? That's a good question, actually, and it turns out there was no good answers in economics or psychology or sociology or any other ology I could find. And so, given my background in biology and neuroscience, I started reading literature in animals. And even though animals don't really trust other animals, they do tolerate other animals. And so there was this molecule, oxytocin, that allowed group living animals to tolerate each other. And I thought, well, maybe that same mechanism works in humans, but it required a test because brain chemistry and brain organization is quite different between rodents and humans. So this started my 10-year investigation into the functions of oxytocin in human beings. Oxytocin is an ancient molecule that is active in all mammals. But in human beings, we found that it's kind of in hyperdrive. It's a very powerful system. So in animals, classically, it's associated with giving birth and with maternal care for offspring. And that's true in human beings, but in human beings, we do even more. So not only do we care about our own kids and our friends, we actually help complete strangers all the time. We trust our lives to strangers. We get on airplanes, eat in restaurants. So how do we do that? How do we live here, the biggest city in the United States, New York City? How do we live in this sea of strangers? We have to have some mechanism in our head that says, Bob, great, fine, seems trustworthy. Jill, seems sketchy, don't want to be around her. So if we don't have that mechanism, we can't live around strangers. And yet we like living around strangers. We like the excitement of being around strangers. So why is that? Right? It's because we have this old evolved mechanism that tells us who seems to be safe to be around and who doesn't seem to be safe. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough so that most of the time we're in the safety zone. So oxytocin in animals modulates approach withdrawal behavior. So if you see an animal that seems safe, you'll let it approach. If you see an animal that doesn't seem safe, you'll withdraw or you'll attack. So the same thing happens in humans. We're balancing trust and distrust. And oxytocin is this sort of governor that tells us how far to go, how far to pull away. And it does that by working in evolutionarily old areas of the human brain, areas associated with emotions and social behaviors. So it's not like I can go through this calculation, there's a 20% chance that. Why? Because it's too slow. We have all these strangers around us. We have to go, ooh, this just feels wrong. So literally there are oxytocin receptors in the gut, in the heart. So we have this sense of, oh, this doesn't feel right, right? Or, gee, this person seems so nice. I don't know why, but man, she's great. I just want to hang out with her. So oxytocin really gives us this good feeling. So the bad feeling is driven by stress chemicals and a bunch of other interesting chemicals in the brain, including testosterone, which is associated with aggression, protection. And so there's this kind of soup in the brain that we're living in. And as we squirt out oxytocin, which happens very fast, it sort of changes that balance towards the trust side. Doesn't change it all the way. You don't turn into some, gullible person. You say, oh, this seems okay. And it's a quick on-off switch. So it's released and it disappears in 3 minutes. So it says, oh, safe environment. I don't want to leave that safety switch on because I may see now a scary person coming to my surroundings. Just a kind of quick sense. And again, we had to investigate this using the techniques of neuroscience because people can't articulate why they're getting this feeling because it's so evolutionarily old. We just get a sense that this is appropriate or inappropriate. So that's why it's an interesting chemical to study because it's so old evolutionarily and yet it enables civilization in a very real sense. The hallmark of civilization is unrelated people living and working together. You can't have that unless you have this trust detector in your head. So the feeling of oxytocin is one of relaxation, and people report the experience of empathy when we stimulate their brains to release oxytocin. So when we are trusting, when we're connected to others, we understand their emotions, we understand their motivations better, and we're more likely to engage in a kind of pro-social way to help them. One of the most outstanding findings we've got just in the last 6 months is that individuals who release more oxytocin when they're trusted are happier. And they're happier because they have better relationships of all types. Better romantic relationships, more close friends, better relationships with their family, and they're even kinder to strangers. So on every level, they're connecting better to the people around them. So if we reverse engineer that process, it says, look, if I want to be happy, what I need is connection on all these different dimensions. I want to connect as much as possible to the people around me. So what this tells us is that part of our deep human nature is that we're a connecting species. So in a very real sense, we're connected to every other human on the planet. Right? This is why we donate money to help disaster victims in Haiti, who will literally never see. It's why we cry at movies. Even though we know it's fictional, you know, when the hero dies, we're moved by that because we are a connecting species. We can't help but connect, even at a distance. In fact, we've shown recently that if you use social media, your brain releases oxytocin. So we can do it through the internet, right? So again, our brains haven't evolved to know that this flickering image is different, or this typing in Twitter is different than seeing my friend in person. So it means that we have, you know, zillions of ways we can connect, right? Any way that connects that we've looked at so far, just about, releases oxytocin. And when we release oxytocin, we feel happier, we feel closer to our people around us, our community. So let's start out with how we can release oxytocin. So again, the classical ways were giving birth, breastfeeding, or sex. All three of those are too messy to run in my lab. So we started investigating other ways we could release oxytocin. The first way we showed was giving a gift that shows you trust someone with your stuff, in this case, money. So gift giving is very important. We know this from Valentine's Day and whatever. But we can give gifts to our friends. The second is touch. We looked at the role of touch in releasing oxytocin. We've shown things like hugs will release oxytocin, even from a stranger. And so the prescription I have for you is 8 hugs a day. So we found that people who get 8 hugs a day are in fact happier in their lives. So it's a real simple rule. I need 8 hugs today. And just check them off. It's great. Other ways to release oxytocin include warm temperatures, so sitting in a jacuzzi or sitting in a warm environment de-stresses you. Oxytocin reduces anxiety, so as we reduce anxiety, we're more likely to connect to others. Even eating a meal will release oxytocin. So we have all these meetings over meals. Why is that? Or dates. Oh, that's a bonding mechanism. The meal says, oh, I'm relaxing now, I'm connecting, I'm letting this connection system work because I'm reducing the anxiety side of the distrust side of my brain. So there's lots of ways we release oxytocin, again, from tweeting to receiving a gift, but you've got to initiate it. So the trick is, this is essentially a feedback loop. So it's not that I've released oxytocin and therefore I'm doing something. Someone has to start this loop going. So I think this is when the neuroscience is valuable from a personal perspective, even a public policy perspective. We've got to start this ball rolling. So if I give you a hug and you release oxytocin, for the next 3 to 20 minutes, depending on some physiologic factors, you're going to have raised oxytocin levels, and you're going to want to connect to other people around you. And if you give someone else a hug, boom, you've reduced oxytocin in them, and now we have this creation of a kind of environment I think we all want to live in, which is more connected, more empathic, and happier. It's not so hard. Okay, so when oxytocin is released, it's released within seconds of a positive social stimulus. So it's a pure social chemical. It's not released for non-social stimuli. When someone does something nice to you or connects to you, your brain releases this, and right in the brainstem, the oldest area in the brain that we have, and then it shoots up to the front of your brain, reduces anxiety. At the same time, a bunch is released in your blood, reduces your heart rate a little bit, it relaxes your gut a little bit, right? So this is why we have the opposite effect when we eat. We relax the gut when we eat, and then boom, it's easier to release oxytocin. So, and then it has a 3-minute half-life. It's all sent down to the kidneys, and you pee it out, right? So it goes right from the brain into the toilet, in the course. So 3-minute half-life means in 20 minutes it's all gone. So this is a quick on-off system. Now this means that you need to keep stimulating the system. So you can't just connect once. That's why we have this 8 hugs a day prescription. You've got to keep doing it. You've got to train your brain to release this. Let me tell you, I am my best experimental subject. So I'm an introvert, and I'm not shy. I'm happy to talk to people. I just don't feel a need to that much. I'm a quiet person. But I found that as I've discovered how important oxytocin is to human connection and happiness, that I'm much more willing now to reach out and connect to people. And because of that, I think I have a bigger social network. I'm certainly happier, and I'm connecting better to people. So anyone watching this, yeah, take the plunge. Say hi to somebody new, shake hands, give them a hug. I just refuse to shake hands now. I'm just going to hug everybody. That's my thing. and it earned me the nickname Dr. Love, and that's fine. I'm happy to spread more love in the world. It's a really simple way to say, look, I care about you. I want to connect to you for the next 10 minutes, 2 hours, wherever it is, and really get down to why we're interacting. I don't want to get into your head too much, but I just want to really have a good empathic connection to whoever I'm around. And it turns out if you pre-announce that you hug everybody, which I've done many times, right away they open up. Then they just see this as a sign of safety. So even the pre-announcement may release oxytocin. We could test that. So I'm very happy to be here in New York at the BMWGuggenheimLab. And tonight is Love Night. And this was organized by Charles Montgomery, a writer who had been following some of my work. And the idea was to design different activities that individuals could do that would help them connect to strangers in the city. So we've done a variety of things to try to prompt the brains to release oxytocin, get this connection going, and then at the end of the night we're going to ask people how happy they are. So that's the kind of approach we're using. The idea is kind of seed this notion within the individuals who are attending. So one of those will be, of course, the hug booth. So we have these wonderful shirts that will change color when you get a hug, and so you'll know when you're hugging. We'll have some hug ambassadors, including me, of course, and so we'll go around and hug people. The other is some work we've been doing, based on some work we've been doing on forgiveness. So forgiveness requires that I kind of open up and tell you about something I regret. So we have a way to relate those regrets in an anonymous way, but publicly. So we have a cell phone app in which people can just type in, gee, here's something it's really bugged me that I've done and I regret. And that goes up on a big screen monitor and it just loops around. So it becomes public, but no one knows that it's your regretful thing. So when you open up, when you've given this gift of honesty, the brain releases oxytocin and then you can connect better. Some of the other things we're doing include putting up your hopes and fears. Same thing, there's an app and you can see this go up on the screen and say, you know, here's something I really wish I could do in my life or something that would happen in the world. So hopefully it's not as generic as world peace, but you know, I really wish I could see my elderly mother more often. Right? So if people put that out there, then all of a sudden it starts to kind of seed this idea among others, like, oh, you know, I share that same idea. So we're hoping that by displaying these, it will start a conversation going, which is, you know, that's something I would like to do in my life, and I think it's something important. And the last one, which is a very nice idea from one of the psychologists on the team, is warm drinks. So research has shown that if you hold a warm drink versus a cold drink, the people with a warm drink report warmer feelings. Individual feelings and others' feelings. So we have warm drinks, little cups of hot chocolate you can give to others. So we're going to get the gift giving as well as the warm drink all at once. And so again, it's not that you're going to walk down Broadway and be handing out little cups of hot chocolate, but it tells you that you have to initiate this process. You've got to start this ball rolling, and if you do, you can actually keep it rolling. Right? Now, having said that, there are appropriate times to be distrustful and to be aggressive or to run away. And so, again, this is not a system that is not adapting to the environment you're in. So if you give someone a warm drink and they start screaming at you, believe me, your stress hormones will flood your brain and you'll get aggressive or you'll back off. That's fine too. So again, we have to maintain this balance. We don't want to kind of gork people out so that they're, you know, empathy junkies. And so we want to modulate to the environment we're in. But I think, you know, the radical changes in New York City and many other large cities in the US and around the world, in which the crime rate's fallen by some measure 60 to 80% versus 20 years ago, that's an amazing thing. New York is one of the safest cities in the United States. And so I think one of the reasons for Love Night is to drive that home, that this is actually a very wonderful place to live, a very safe place to live, and you can actually make it better and make yourself happier if you start to connect to other people. So one of the points of this research is not just to focus on brain molecules, but to scale up to the level of societies and cities. So there are some direct things you can do in a big city like New York to facilitate oxytocin release and start this virtuous circle. One is something that Mayor Bloomberg did about 5 years ago, which is put out tables and chairs in big squares like in Times Square. Right? So there's a worry that people will grab the chairs and steal them or throw them through windows, and in fact that hasn't happened. People sat down. Shockingly. And what happens when you sit down and maybe have a beverage? You start talking. So it gives you this space in which you can actually connect to strangers. And you know, the critique of this is that, oh, well, you're doing some kind of social engineering and And I would argue the opposite, that this is actually a deep part of our human nature, because this molecule is so old. You know, it's throughout the mammal line, and actually versions predate. Versions of this molecule found in fish. So it's been around at least 400 million years ago. This is not social engineering. It's that cities, people in cities have convinced us that we have to be on guard all the time. And we'll be on guard a little bit, but also we want to let our guard down and have environments for connection. So having space to connect and having a safe space to connect is important. High stress inhibits the release of oxytocin. So once we're in this high stress situation, we're not going to connect, we're not going to be happy. And so again, we have to provide these environments. Other ways are simple things like gift giving. So I know this happens here sometimes where you pay a toll. So pay the toll for the person behind you. Just give them a gift. And what's going to happen? They have their $3 out and they're going to pay. That pays for the person behind them, and you generate this loop, which can last for a very long time. Right, who's the person who's going to get to the toll booth and go, oh, they paid for me? Fine, I'm not going to pay. Right? I mean, so we found that 5% of the population have a dysfunction in oxytocin. We call this ODD, oxytocin deficit disorder, because these people are odd. So, you know, the 5% are going to say, yeah, I'm taking the gift, but I'm not going to reciprocate. So oxytocin really is about reciprocation, about embedding us in the social community. And that's what New York is, and big cities are. They are a very rich social environment. And the point of tonight is to understand that we need to be part of that environment. We can't just flit through the city and not interact with the humans in it. So I live in Los Angeles, and so obviously been to New York many times, but I was so struck about how much green space there is. You know, and it's very expensive green space, right? You could have skyscrapers there. So parks are very important. You know, having these areas to interact with others in a casual way, and playgrounds are very important. So the world's best oxytocin releasers are children, because if children don't cause their parents to release oxytocin, or caregivers, they die. They can't take care of themselves. So just having a playground there, having little children around, even if you don't have children, if you don't care about children, you can't get sort of help but get caught up in this sort of wave of just pure unadulterated joy that children have playing on the playground. So I think building in those kinds of spaces where we get to interact with the sort of fabric of the social community is very important, even if it's not, you know, directly our community. The other thing is diversity is important. So this fear response it works on stereotypes. And so someone who looks different than us, someone who talks different than us, automatically provokes a fear response, because we're not sure what this person's doing and what they're going to do to us. So I think one of the values of big cities, particularly diverse cities like New York, is the great diversity. Ethnic diversity, religious diversity, clothing diversity, gender diversity, on and on. So everybody's here, and we get to interact with that. And so instead of categorizing, oh, it's one of those people, now it's, oh, that's my friend Bob. He's African American, or he's Chinese, or he's Jewish, whatever it is. Right? We get to have that experience. So having that exposure over and over, that, you know, breaks down categories and leads us to interact with individuals as individuals is important. So the top 5 New York tips for how to release oxytocin and build a better world. Number 1, 8 hugs a day. Easy. You know, get a t-shirt, just make it a rule. I'm an equal opportunity hugger, so I can't be accused of sexual harassment because I hug everybody. The second is breathe. Take time to breathe, slow down. If you take a deep breath and hold it, it slows down heart rate, it slows down your brain systems. If you just slow down for a moment, you'll actually take in more information. When we're stressed, our focus narrows to just exactly what we're doing. So breathing is very important. Many of the exercises involving things like breathing control, meditation, we've shown release oxytocin. So just taking time to breathe, just slowing down. That could be sitting down in a park. Many people report that these kind of wonderful nature experiences, sort of transcendent experiences being in nature, like in Central Park, are valuable to them. So breathing in a particular area. So that's number 2. Number 3 is give a gift. Just randomly. Pay the toll for somebody, even the homeless guy, give him $5. Yeah, you see him in the corner every day. You know, who knows what he's going to use it for. The point is that you're going to feel better about the world you're doing. You're creating a world that you want to live in. So number 3 is give a gift. Number 4 is to share a meal with somebody. and share a meal with somebody you don't know. So take someone new from work, take someone, a neighbor, share a meal is a great way to release oxytocin. And the last is meet somebody new. So go out of your way to meet a neighbor, meet someone you see on the street, say hello to them. It's shocking, actually, how easy it is to connect to people. Just say hi. It's not so hard. So occasionally I meet people who say, I don't like to be hugged. That's okay. I'll never force a hug on anybody. That's aversive, actually, and it's just wrong. So there's lots of ways you can connect. It might be through social media. It might be through inviting a neighbor out to dinner. It might be through walking someone's dog or caring for their dog while they're on vacation. It's so easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of time. When you start building these relationships, your social network gets richer. And we do know that people with social networks that are larger are less ill and live longer and are happier. Boom, that's where I want to be, right? So, it just requires doing, I think, one thing different in your life. Just make a point to connect to people. And I hope that people will carry that over from Love Night into their daily lives.